Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is DB333, and welcome to Hearts of Iron 4, The New Order. Last is Europe as England. Now, in last video, we finished up the trials and the tribulations of the old collaborationist government, and we did our elections, and we got George Jellicoe elected. I forget if I did or did not elect the or read the description, so I'm going to do that real quick. George Jellicoe might have a military background, but the once daring commando who terrorized the Italian forces in the Mediterranean looks quite different nowadays. Forced to capitulate following his capture in the earliest stages of Operation Sea Lion, Jellicoe pretends to be willing to let go of his loyalty to King George and was released into a well-respected civil service position at the Foreign Office. In secret, however, the son-to-be admiral in command at Jutland never fully surrendered. In his position at the Foreign Office, Jellicoe was approached by the agents of Claude Auchinleck and quickly rose to become one of the main contacts between the OFN and HMMLR. Following the victory of HMMLR forces in the English Civil War, Auchinleck was faced with the problem of his own advanced age and not wanting to set a military precedent for leadership in the new civilian government. As a result, he nominated someone he could trust to head the National Democratic League at the first democratic election in 20 years. A man dedicated to his queen, his country, and his party. Jellicoe plans to turn England into something resembling its former glory, but whether he can do this whilst keeping his American friends happy remains to be seen, for in the end, despite their different origins, Jellicoe is respected by Enoch Powell and Norman St. John Stivas enough to maintain his position as Prime Minister, but whether he turns the NDL into a party in its own right and earn trust that Auchinleck placed in him remains to be seen. Now, some might be notice something different from the last couple parts. I didn't say hello to chat, and that's because I'm not streaming this. I figured my schedule's kind of all over the place because I'm getting ready for school and I have to work in my job, so I figured I don't know if I can record or if I'll have time to, and when I start, it's a bit too late, really, to start a stream and get people to hop in. So I'm just recording that, so hopefully that's okay with you guys, hopefully. But now, it is time to let democracy ring. The votes have been counted, and the people have made their will clear. For the first time in almost 3 decades, a free and fair election has been held in England, and their people have chosen. They have chosen freedom. They have chosen democracy. They have chosen the National Democratic League. We shall unify the government and rebuild the nation. We shall improve our standing both at home and abroad. We shall transform England and the British Isles into a bastion of democratic freedom. Such is the will of the people. So we have 14 days for that to happen. Let's go ahead and do it. Taking a sip of water. And let's get on with it. A little something in my throat. The day-night loop is off. What else do we have? Well, let's check out this real quick. So we have the House of Commons. We have government stability, which is at 33%. Could be better. Could be worse. We have our majority. Alright. Euro Military District is 1. And so we have the Right Honorable George Jellicoe as our Prime Minister. This has a different little thing. George Jellicoe was never expected to equal his father's achievements at Jutland. Thankfully, he and most of the commando regiments weren't expected to make a great difference in the war at all, but some low expectations come with an odd sort of valor, and Jellicoe uses wits and his rifle to go from a soldier to an overlooked civil servant to the leader of the largest and most diverse political party in English history. He's still a rambunctious womanizer at the heart, of course, but underneath the extravagant exterior is a truly terrifying strategic mind. Right, then we have the Majesty. No one. For the first time since the days of Cromwell, the English throne sits empty. The acts of Parliament rule the lands, not the decrees of a sovereign. The traditionalists hope the arrangement will be a brief hiatus before the coronation of a new monarch, but to the socialists this will be more than another interregnum. This will be a shining step in England's march into the modern age, where the will of the people is supreme. 1,000 years of royal power over England may be undone, or this will be the beginning of another 1,000 years where God and sovereign reign supreme. And finally, for your opposition, we have the Right Honorable Harold Wilson. An economist and civil servant ending up as one of the foremost resistant leaders of the 1950s is a strange thought indeed, yet Harold Wilson's strength of will is matched only by his fervent idealism and sincere desire for change, leading a mixed bag of socialists, communists, and more besides has left Wilson as one of the finest political minds in England. For nothing less will keep the bag of cats, that is SLP, focused on their opponents, much less than elections. This is most fortunate for the opposition, for with a united party, Wilson could well be unstoppable. I'll have to wait and see, though. Until that day, we'll have to let democracy ring. So we still have the electoral map, which is pretty neat that that's there. Our election decisions have popped up, but you can still look at the map here. And we'll see what ends up happening here. There's also something else I noticed. Oop. Hold up. In the early hours of the morning, exit polls began to tell the results of the first free English elections in many years. The National Democratic League had secured a majority of seats in Parliament and would inevitably be called to form the next government. Such a spectacle had not been seen for 2 decades, and the change was more than welcome. Yet many could not help but fear for the longevity of a government which was so internally divided from the start. How could Earl Jellicoe have a hope of holding it all together? However, no matter what the people thought of the NDL, Jellicoe would graciously accept the prime ministership, and an altogether different government would rule over an English people who had suffered for so long. A new course, indeed. So we get some more PP, and we can start working on this. The NDL is a balancing act. The right-wing English Patriots and the left-wing New Whig parties both command significant influence in the NDL. If one of these organizations gets more than 40% influence, the other will raise alarms. If the influence grows to 40%, disaster and defection will occur. Jellicoe's goal is to keep the other wings balanced, and his Democrats the strongest organization in the NDL. So we'll have to be careful about that. Let's go ahead and meet with St. John Stavas. Norman St. John Stavas leads the Liberal Democratic wing of the NDL, but he has some socially unacceptable preferences. That means he's gay. You gotta remember this is the 60s. We cannot ignore his influence. He is one of the few people able to rally the inner city populations against the SLP. Not only will we need to entertain some of his more liberal ideas regarding social issues, we also need to balance between him and Enoch Powell. Those two men and their respective factions will not play nicely with each other, and it will be up to us to keep the party unified. Well, let's do it the best we can. So, we more or less are working on the path of unifying England. After that, we gotta reunify Britain. Or at least the main Isle, which I think that's Britain, right? Great Britain is the Isle, and it's the United Kingdom because Northern Ireland. I think that's how it works. Yeah. So the state of Wales is just going to be a rough one. We're going to have to go to war with them, if I had to guess. Because we have this psycho fuck. I mean, look at him. What is he wearing? Is that armor? Is he wearing old-fashioned armor? I don't know. Then we have the SLP, which they're trying to be very friendly with us. And that's not something I want. Well, I'm glad if they're friendly with us, but I want us to be more united, if you catch my drift. I want to annex them. Jellicoe was glad to see St. John Stavas arrive at his prime ministerial office so promptly, for he did not wish to wait long to tell him the good news. Stavas was to become the Minister of Foreign Affairs, a position that Jellicoe knew would suit the man well. The leader of the Whig Party was indeed pleased with his new position, and was aware that there was much work to be done in this field. Before he left, Stavas turned to Jellicoe and asked what position Enoch Powell would be getting. Minister of Security, I'm afraid. Best keep the man while he be the happiness for now. Keep your friends close. So we get Norman St. John Stavas, a Liberal Democrat, a bit more PP, which is nice. A little more foreign subversive activities efficiency. It's not so nice. And then trade deal opinion modifier minus 10%. We'll see how that works. And then we will have Enoch Powell. There are few figures more controversial in England than Enoch Powell, despite his problematic views on religious freedoms and his complicated thoughts on immigration. He still has a significant amount of influence in the country. This influence is mainly amongst the far right, as well as the supporters of the fallen collaborationist government. While many in the League dislike him, he's a key component of the government and must be kept on our side if we are to enact our vision for England. He is critical to our plans. We must meet with him to sway him to our cause. Fair enough. Let's go working on that. I believe, Bianca's looking kind of thick, not gonna lie. We'll see whether or not they can, well, the West Russians are doing pretty well, too. They're actually looking pretty thick right now, too. Sverdlovsk is doing pretty well. They're going up against Omsk right now, it looks like. Or they're preparing to, at the very least. We'll have to wait and see. And then... Come on, father. You gotta win. You gotta win here, man. Got some unassigned divisions. We'll put them here. Yeah, that's Wales Army. Anywho, over here we got some outdated infantry fighting vehicles. So let's get those going. Then we can research more stuff. Let's work on some tanks. Improved tanks. That works for me. Something else I wanted to point out. I forget if I did. We have a state economy thing, which is a flat out different. I think it's unique to us. It shows our population, domestic jobs, foreign jobs, unemployment, and just general info about our state GDP, domestic GDP value, foreign GDP value, GDP per capita. Some pretty interesting stuff, actually. So we'll have to figure out how to manage all that. Okay, that's Samar versus Gorky. I gotta know who I have to, you know, vote for here. We'll see what happens there. The Prime Minister's meeting with Enoch Powell was a lot more formal than he would have liked. The leader of the Patriot Party declined the drink Jellicoe offered him. Instead, insisted that he get on with whatever it was he was going to tell him. I've decided upon giving you the position of Minister of National Security. I'm sure you will do a brilliant job of keeping our country, well, secure. Indeed I will, came Powell's brief reply. He left the room soon after, not bothering to ask after the position of the leader of the Whigs. After all, he had just been given a job to do, and he would be damned if he did not start his work immediately. Keep the other friends close as well. Division recovery rate, that's pretty nice, and some more stability. Also nice. Then we have to have a talk with good old Claude. Claude Auchinleck, the father of the NDP, leader of HMMLR and the rebellion. There's no more prominent individual in England, or maybe even in the Isles. He's a man who chose Jellicoe to lead the NDP, and as such, it's only right and proper that we consult with him about the future of the country. We can fish out his insights and further secure his backing. After all, he put us here. How hard would it be for him to put someone else in our place? Yeah. Well, let's get on with it. What do we want to do here? We'll get to send Stavas over. Get a bit bigger economic impact. And I'll work on saving up my political power for now. The recognition of Scottish independence led to a whole host of things to be decided by England, who would be the ambassador for starters, what trade agreements to sign, and where should the embassy go. Edinburgh didn't have a number of embassy buildings like London had, especially since many nations refused to see them as a legitimate government up until recently. They did have a series of former consulates from before the Second World War, and many nations used those to conduct business with the Scottish government. England wanted a bit more than that, however. They wanted something a bit better, more imposing, to get the message to Scotland that they were the top dogs in this relationship. Unfortunately, large ominous buildings were a bit rare commodity in Edinburgh at the moment, and many people didn't want to spend money on a new structure that might not be completed until Scotland rejoined the UK. So they decided to compromise and purchase a pre-existing structure that was close to Scotland's government. They found what they needed in a building almost next to the old Parliament in Edinburgh. It looked like an embassy. It had the space for one. It was close enough to get the message across. So the English set up shop there. It was absolutely perfect. Except for the U.S. Embassy being next door and closer to the Scottish government. Always second fiddle to the bloody Yanks. Of course. Well, campaign season is back for whatever reason. But there's nothing much we can do. In fact, nothing at all we can do. R.I.P. Gorky. We're all on, little buddy. George Jellicoe met up with Claude Auchinleck at the end of the busiest day of his life. Auchinleck had been expecting him. A chair had been pulled beside a table, and a glass of something had already been placed next to it. Jellicoe did not mind what had been poured, so long as it was strong. "How long do you think you can all last?" Auchinleck asked the Prime Minister, rather bluntly. "If I'm to be honest, Claude, sometime between the end of today and the next election. I fear such things are out of control." "The way I see it, George, we are the last hope this country has. Wilson may personally be committed to democracy, but God knows what the rest of the SLP would do. Besides, we both know he somehow has less of a grip on his party than you have on the League. You simply must maintain the NDL, George, for the future of all England depends on it." Jellicoe knew Auchinleck was right, that he could not shift the ever-present fear, that he could not make it, that he would not be enough. How about another drink? And then we have God Save the Queen. The time has now come for Elizabeth Windsor to take the crown. The return of a queen should be a momentous, joyous occasion, but is marred by a pallid cloud. A question still hangs thick above Coronation. What is to be done about the collaborator, the puppet? What is to be done about the traitor king? What is to be done about King Edward VIII? There are many in the country and the party with differing views and opinions on the matter. Only once this question can be answered can she be crowned Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of England. Let's get on it then. And then after this, I think we'll work on the SIS bit. Oh, what? Oh, no, it failed. I was about to say. Kind of weird. Well. Let's see what Himmler is up to. Unknown focus, it looks like. Yeah, streng geheim, add modifier, the bunkers, in all caps. What else? Okay, come on. Come on, Father. I know you can do it. In fact, I'm hoping, I'm praying that you can do it because both of these fucking suck. Okay, I'm gonna save real quick just because there's a bit of a bug apparently going on with it. This event, I forget which one, but if you select one over the other, you don't get Elizabeth on the throne, or at least right here. So I gotta be careful. So I'll save and then I'll reload if it doesn't work. For a brief moment, Jellicoe thought that the radicals did have a point when they suggested shooting Edward. From an impartial point of view, it was simpler. Jellicoe sighed and came back to reality. Edward would live. Really, all the major decisions were made by Berlin, who kept Edward as a figurehead, and any of the minor decisions were made by the people under him who hated his guts. And there was a bit of hesitation with him being able to execute a close family member of the Queen anyway. So a sad sap would keep his head, but there was still the question of what to do with him. Exile him? That was an option. Put him as far away from the island as possible, but some said it was too much. He could be allowed to stay if his title were stripped from him. Without his titles, he would be nothing. But he would also be nothing if he was permanently kicked off of out of a kingdom. One was a bit different. Both put him out of the picture just as well as the other. But still, there was massive debate about it. Exile was something out of the 1700s. Stripping his titles was too lenient. He could do something sneaky if he was put outside of English jurisdiction. He might do something sneaky if he had access to London. He might just be happy to be out of the picture anyway and not make a move. God damn it! He was tired of this. He was a prime minister, and he'd solve this issue once and for all. And Edward would now be known as Mr. Windsor. I think this is one that lets you keep stuff, but I'm not sure. Let's work on the SIS real quick. No contradiction greater than Kim Philby can be found. Philby is a firm believer in the absolute annihilation of the enemies of the working class. He also leads the SIS better than anyone else ever could. To move him would be a near impossible be a major blow to the young service. We must treat this affair delicately, like capturing a butterfly. We can neither tighten up our grip too hard nor slacking up too much. Alright. Whoever came up with the idea to televise this deserved a knighthood, Jellicoe thought. Jet aircraft were preparing to fly the tape as soon as it was broadcast to Canada and Australia. TV sets were flying off the shelves, and everyone not in the crowd outside was gathered around a television set for the duration of the ceremony. Everyone could see the coronation, and everyone could be a part of it. Not to say that this had dampened the attendance along the procession route. Everyone wanted to see the new queen in person, riding with her husband in a gilded carriage, with her newly incorporated royal guards in front and behind her, and the reception was mostly positive. The SLP had elements who were going to protest the ceremony, but they've been drowned out by the cheers of the onlookers and the martial music. No disruptions on the route happened, which was Jellicoe's main concern. The ceremony began with the Queen entering Westminster to a choir singing "I Was Glad." Once she had seated herself on the chair of the estate, the religious paraphernalia and the coronation garments were brought in. Then came the first necessary step. The Queen stood next to King Edward's chair. "Sirs," said the Archbishop of Canterbury, "I here present unto you Queen Elizabeth, your undoubted queen, wherefore all of you who are to come this day to your homage and service, are you willing to do the same?" "God save Queen Elizabeth!" affirmed the crowd. Throughout the rest of the ceremony, filled with oaths and tradition, he was never bored or found himself wishing for a quick end. For everything that the resistance had worked for, everything that so many men had died to do, and every sacrifice made by the people of England, it was for this. The true heir had returned. The world knew that pre-war England had returned. When St. Edward's crown touched Queen Elizabeth II's head, a new reign and a new era for her kingdom had officially begun. Long live the Queen! There we are. There's Lizzie. Ah, very nice. Born Elizabeth Alexandra Mary Windsor, Elizabeth was expected to live as a minor princess for the rest of her life. This all changed with her uncle's abdication and her father's ascension as king. Elizabeth became heir apparent to the English throne for a few short years. When the wall of the English Channel was broken, Elizabeth was among the first to evacuate Canada. She would remain there as pretender to the English throne for the next 20 years. Despite the shattering of the British Empire, she enjoyed much support from the former British dominions and from home in the form of HMMLR. With victory of resistance in the Civil War, Elizabeth had returned to her homeland, now as Queen Elizabeth II of England. The Englishmen are hopeful that the new Elizabeth won't share the same fate as her uncle and will bring England to a new era of prosperity. It now falls to her to rebuild a fallen kingdom from the ashes. As a complete figurehead, but you know, what are you going to do? We'll get working on some more PP. So what are we going to do with this? This will increase support for the Paulidites, which I think are the authoritarian communists, if I'm right. The hardliners, something like that. So that's not optimal, but I don't know if they're doing that well any of them to begin with. Kind of okay in Severn, it looks like. Wiltshire, they are dominating. Jesus Christ. Kind of close in Lancashire, but I don't know. Exactly. Let's see, the Severn Governorates. Samara. Looks like they have... So who are they leaning towards? Zykov. Okay, so they're kind of democratic. Which, I mean, it's better than, you know, a lot of the other ones. Let's be fair. Free civilian factories. Ooh, right. Get working on some... let's work on rebuilding Cornwall a bit. God knows what the Jerrys did to it. And then after that, probably some more civvy factories. How's our economy doing? Let's pay off some more debt. Vassell's door opened loudly, startling the figure hunched over a small desk. He put down the pen he was holding and looked at the visitor. Still wasn't time for his meal. When he saw who it was, he straightened his posture, but refused to stand to greet her. "Niece," came his tired voice, "I would never have expected you to visit me." "Uncle?" the young woman answered in a firm tone, without an ounce of sweetness from her kin. "I came to make sure you're being treated right." "I am indeed well treated, considering the considered circumstances," was the tired answer. Had he always been so sad, so empty? The woman remembered his jovial uncle when he played with her, always laughing, always ready to have fun. Now he was an empty shell, wrinkles bringing his once regal features down like ropes tearing down the statue of a tyrant. Despite her efforts, she voiced her innermost thoughts. "Why did you do all this? Was your thirst for power so great you turned into that monster's lapdog?" Hunger for power. The laugh, so full of scorn, so different from the old ones, almost scared her. "Elizabeth, in all of my life I never held an ounce of power. They took away my crown, my freedom, they wanted to take away my heart. But I didn't let them take that. And look what that brought you! You betrayed the kingdom! You betrayed my father! You..." She stopped when she saw her uncle's eyes turn hollow. "You don't know what I suffered, Elizabeth. I took it all to save my people. I didn't betray them! If it hadn't been for me, London would have been rubble by now!" The Queen scoffed. I see you are well, uncle. I will take my leave now. And she made to turn. Be careful, Elizabeth. The Americans are not different from the Germans. They'll do the same, with a friendly smile. Be careful. Came Edward's last plea. Elizabeth walked away, but she couldn't help the nagging feeling that her uncle may, after all, be right. We'll have to wait and see. Whew, damn. Now that's some good writing right there. Oh, there goes the West Russians against Vyatka. Working tirelessly behind the scenes of even the most shadowy aspects of England's inner workings, Kim Philby has wormed his way into every corner of British politics. The man is a natural-born spy, an enigma in and of itself. No one can be sure of his true intentions. The predicament that we face is the support he receives from anyone and everyone who matters, across both sides of comments and beyond. Jellicoe reminds himself has his own doubts as to whether or not the man could really be as bad as some claim. Nevertheless, Philby is an indomitable figure. His control over the SIS only adds to the damage he could do to England. His true motives are yet to be uncovered. Once the truth is found out, we can deal with him for good. What can be done? I say let's get working on rebuilding an economy, first off. Homelessness, hunger, sickness. Such are the conditions left to hundreds of thousands of patriotic Englishmen after the violence of our Civil War. Even traditionally comfortable classes like business owners and landlords have seen their wealth dry up, leaving a gaping hole where an economy once existed. If we hope to stand on 2 feet, we must mobilize all resources possible to bring stability and comfort to the daily lives of all citizens, rich and poor. Let's do it. We'll lose a bit of PP, but we'll gain some stability, some support of conservative democracy, boost to our NDL Democrat support in Yorkshire, and we'll get an event. Which sounds right proper to me. Yes, yes. Green Finland. I don't know if I like that. Hang in there. Vyatka. I don't want Samara to be the one I have to root for. Okay, looks like the father has a bit of an edge, I'd say. All I do know is that, Michael's probably dead, the poor guy. R.I.P. He deserves better, he really does. It's a damn shame, but, you know. Ooh. Oh, what is? Autos. No, not autosave. The game was about to crash for a second. The next that followed was much easier. A young man stood near the back of the assembly and asked, "Does the Prime Minister have any specific measure that will draw younger voters to the Royal Party to secure our future elections, rather than just simply focusing on the past?" The Royal Party? What? I don't think I'm supposed to be getting this event. Yeah, this looks like a Thatcher thing. I guess I'll go for one with that gives a stab. Margaret Thatcher. That old cunt. Even in death, she won't leave us alone. Okay, we got Bennett elected. There we go. So Siberia versus Irkutsk. Come on, Siberia. You can do it. Okay, the Sverdlovsk versus Omsk. Let's see who ends up winning. What's Germany up to? They got their military redeployment going. Still got Werner. over here winning. Still alive. After a morning of unproductive meetings, one could use a nice stroll to clear the mind. So thought Prime Minister Jellicoe as he walked out of Westminster Palace. George Jellicoe's stroll would not stay pleasant much longer as he rounded the corner hoping to pick up a pastry from a favorite bakery. Instead, he ran into a crumbling storefront, a faded sign hanging slanted on the dirty glass. The whole street was in a starved state. For every open business were two more closed or on their way out. The homeless dotted the streets, surrounded by empty houses. Suddenly, a single gunshot loudly broke Jellicoe's focus on the street. As his security detail dragged him away, a woman shrieked as she entered her husband's room, finding him with a smoking pistol in one hand and a brown envelope in the other. The PM returned to Downing Street, shaking but filled with new resolve. As Jellicoe sat down, Eccles and several other officers pressed him with a report on the state of the economy. The numbers were, as expected, not looking great. He paid them little attention. It wasn't anything he hadn't already seen. The Prime Minister picked up the phone. Get Shirley on the line. And with that, we're going to have to cut here, folks. Thanks for watching. As always, if you like this video, go ahead and leave a like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you want to see more of this content in the future, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for more uploads every weekday. It's always every Saturday. If you have any comments, feedback, concern, anything of the sort, leave in the comment section below. I read all the comments I get and I appreciate any feedback you might have for me. If you want to send me bucks my way, I have a Patreon. You can check that out if you're so inclined. If you can't or you don't want to, fair enough, but I appreciate the thought. Also, I have a Discord if you want to check that out. We can chat, play games, have a grand old time. And if you want to see me do stuff live, go ahead and check out my Twitch. Follow that. Yeah, that's about it for now, folks. My name has been Jellicoe333, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.